Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Om Agyantantarinandasyam Gyanashala Shalakaya Chakshunamanitajena Tasma Shri Guruve Namaha Narayanam Namaskritam Narayana Charotama Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet. Jai. So we're reading third canto, chapter 9, text 6, prayers, Brahma's prayers for creative energy. I'm going to go through the word by word translation. Tavat, until then, Bayam, fear, Dravina, wealth, Deha, body, Shruhit, relatives, Nimitam, for the matter of, Shoka, lamentation, Spriha, desires, Prabhibha, paraphernalia, Vipulaha, very great, Cha, also, Lobha, averse, Tavat, up to that time, Mama, mine, Iti, thus, Asad, perishable, Avagraha, undertaking, Artimulam, full of anxieties, Yavat, as long as, Na, do not, Te, your, Anigrahim Abhyayam, safe lotus feet, Pravirnita, take shelter, Loka, the people of the world, Tavat Bayam Javinade Shuhanimitam, Shokashpira Parabhibho Vivalascha Tavan Mimitu Asada Vigraha Artimulam,
Tavan Mametya Saravagraha Artimulam.
Yavannate Nigrina Bayam Privinti Loka,
Yavannaten Grim Abhayam Pravinita Loka.
Anyone else would like to chant?
Tavat Bayam Javina Deha Surinimitam.
Tavat Bayam Javina Dehi Shudat Nimitam,
Shokas Priha Paribhavo Vipulascha Lobha. Tavan Mametya Saravagraha Artimulam. Yavanatin Grima Bayam Pravrinita Loka.
Tavad Bayam Dravina Deha Sruham Nimitam.
Tavad Bayam Dravina Deha Surin Nimitam.
Soka Spriha Paribhavo Vipulascha Lobha.
Soka Spriha Paribhavo Vipulascha Lobha.
Tavam Namiti Asad Avagraha Aritamulam.
Tavan Mametya Saravagraha Artimulam.
Yavanate Nagrim abhyayam pravritnita loka.
Yavam naten grimabhayam pravinita loka.
Anyone online? Okay, so the translation is, O my Lord, the people of the world are embarrassed by all material anxieties. They're always afraid. They always try to protect wealth, body, and friends. They're filled with lamentation and unlawful desires and paraphernalia, and they avariciously based their undertaking on the perishable conception of my and mine. As long as they do not take shelter of your safe lotus feet, they are all full of such anxieties. Report by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. One may question how one can always think of the Lord in regard to His name, fame, quality, etc., if one is embarrassed by thoughts of family affairs. Everyone in the material world is full of thoughts about how to maintain his family, how to protect his wealth, how to keep pace with friends and relatives, etc. Thus, he is always in fear and lamentation, trying to keep up with the status quo. In answer to this question, this verse spoken by Brahma is very appropriate. A pure devotee of the Lord never thinks himself as the proprietor of his home. He surrenders everything onto the supreme control of the Lord, and thus he has no fear for maintaining his family or protecting the interest of his family. Because of this surrender, he no longer has any attraction for wealth. Even if there is an attraction for wealth, it is not for sense enjoyment, but for the service of the Lord. A pure devotee may be attracted to accumulating wealth just like an ordinary man, but the difference is that the devotee acquires money for the service of the Lord, whereas the ordinary man acquires money for his sense enjoyment. Thus, the acquisition of wealth by a devotee is not a source of anxieties, as it is the case for worldly man. And because the pure devotee accepts everything in the sense of the serving of the Lord, the poisonous teeth of accumulation of wealth are extracted. If a snake has its poison removed and bites a man, there is no fatal effect. Similarly, wealth accumulated in the cause of the Lord has no poisonous teeth, and the effect is not fatal. A pure devotee is never entangled in material worldly affairs, even though he may remain in the world like an ordinary man. Om Agyantarinandasyam Gyanashalashalakaya Chakshunamilitayena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Jai, thank you for joining. Gopi Vallabha, Uddhava, Reina, Rukmini, and here in person. Rasa, I'm sorry, Manjari. No, for some reason I want to say Manjari, I don't know why. Rasa? Amrita. Rasa Amrita. And dear Govinda Prabhu. We had a wonderful initiation ceremony, very ecstatic and so connected to Prabhupada in such a personal way. I remember when I was filming the devotees giving their vows, you'll see that in the video, but I got, I think, a really nice angle of Prabhupada, and then the devotees like directly looking at the camera and at Prabhupada, so I hope it's gonna look as personal, or will show that personal aspect of the initiation too. So these are the prayers of Brahma for creative energy. The context in the Srimad Bhagavatam, for me, bit vague, so perhaps later during the class, if someone wants to add to the context and what Brahma actually are referring here to in the concept, that would be great. But yeah, I was reading this verse yesterday, preparing for the class, and thinking what it connects personally in my life, and what I experienced, and the devotees that I met on the way, across the way, and different and challenges I had in my own personal life, and others that I met, and yeah, just contemplating what I want to share, and think in my mind it started from like the end of the purport, and I went back to the beginning of the purport, and I think the first thing that I noted in my mind is how Prabhupada gives this analogy that he uses in different places, and in his writings and letters and other places, about the effects of the poisonous teeth of the snake. How a snake is a dangerous animal, and at the same time, if the poisonous teeth are extracted, he's no longer dangerous. So, what is the danger in our human consciousness? Our human consciousness is so well developed. We can see how, coming from the animal kingdom into the human form of life, we as humans, we exhibit perfection, or almost perfection, in all our senses. We hear well, we see well, we think in a vast capacity. Usually, certain animals will exhibit, let's say, a perfection or almost perfection in one of these senses. A dog would smell very good, but he would not see very good, and so on. And yeah, we have all these senses, and they can be both a source of deliverance for us, and both a source of entanglement. And the more subtle, not sure if this is the senses or what comes after, actually, like our propensity for greed, for example, which is addressed here, is one of these poisonous teeth. And as soon as we take that greed and dovetail it to for the service of the Lord, that is no longer source of implication for us in a material world. And that's one of the things, I think, that really attracted me to Krishna consciousness, beginning with that Krishna consciousness is not about denial, it's not about isolation or escaping both our duties in the material world and our spiritual duty to get out of the material world. But it's something that puts in a different context everything that we experience in the material world. So, for example, the propensity to acquire wealth, simply taking that propensity and dovetailing that in Krishna consciousness, either that's creating beautiful programs, or creating initiation ceremonies, creating big temples, small temples, preaching centers. There's so many Prabhupada showed by his example, and leading, guiding devotees in different capacities, how all these plans can become manifested, either it's farms and other things. And yeah, there are many ways how we can theoretically, potentially spend our wealth in Krishna consciousness. And throughout, I think the past year, I spent somewhat like a lengthy time just traveling through different centers, and spending like several months in each city, connecting to the local community, local devotees, and just having the context of our time in what's been happening like in the world, like the sort of like the post pandemic, right? The whole world was in a pretty much in a big lockdown and a shift socially, economically, for a year and a half, 2 years, and what came more into what been highlighted for me from Prabhupada's teachings is the real how to facilitate more of the material balance, material prosperity that will facilitate or will make our path in Krishna consciousness more easy or less rocky. So Prabhupada had many different phases also in his own preaching legacy. How he came from his Grihastha ashram. He left his Grihastha ashram, his household life, and went to write his books in Vrindavan. And then later on, he brought these books to inspire devotees. He personally inspired devotees, and then he also personally almost took the devotees by the hand and helped them to create, open all these different centers. Then he inspired them also to open farm communities. I think in between here and Dallas, where I'm currently at, New Taliban is there. And there's a famous picture, I think, of Prabhupada walking in between like the greenhouses, with the kids there, with the devotees, and exploring that abundance that Krishna provided. And this is really the magical part about Krishna consciousness, that Krishna, he already gives everything to everyone, regardless if they believe in Krishna, they don't believe, they practice to whatever extent they practice. But really, in Prabhupada's books and Prabhupada's legacy, the way how to implement our connection and connect with God through the different material necessities or material equipment, quote unquote, that Krishna leaves us here, we are able to make the best use of that, and both materially too. I think after really this time that everyone spent, whichever country they've been at, and under lockdown, under the pressure of the government to follow their lead, their instructions, I think we've seen that the time to create an environment that is more conducive for our Krishna consciousness is very how should I say it? It's about time. It's about time. Either if we are in the city, creating our home ashram, or either we are already in the farm, to try to align yourself with how the Bhagavatam, how Prabhupada envisioned our life as a community, both as individual, but I would say more as a community. The Krishna conscious practice, I think, mostly from what I read and what I experienced also, just speaking with other devotees that being there in the 70s or just practiced in a somewhat like a similar way, there's a lot of stress on the individual, on us as an individual in the practice, which is important, right? This is the foundation for our connection to God, to Krishna. And at the same time, there is a stress that I think Prabhupada, from my perspective, shares here, He stresses the place of responsibility for family life in society, in our community, and that stress from looking at how the movement has been developing and developed in the 70s. It and yeah, I don't think it was just stressed enough how we can have Prabhupada and Krishna in the center, not just as an individual, waking up early, doing our rounds. It's as important as our individual practice, our practice as a community, as a society. And that's why I think Prabhupada also, in a lot of his late interactions or last interactions with many devotees, he would stress how the necessity, or I think in some instances he will call it the missing part, the thing that he left undone, which is the farm communities, the how to live in a material equilibrium here, so we can actually prepare to go back home, back to Godhead. And that would be, there's so many practical examples how Prabhupada gave us the lead about that, by either in his books or in his letters and his conversations, how to arrange for cow protection, how he stressed how to grow his how important it is to grow our food, and looking also at just trends on the internet. There are so many figures in society now, on social media or other places, that it's interesting to see how they share these concepts. I don't know, maybe they read some of Prabhupada's books, but this one guy who is he's trying to defeat death. He's trying to battle to prove to everyone that we don't have to die, which of course is futile, and in a way he accepts that, but he's trying to prolong his life as much as possible. And he accumulated a lot of wealth. He had a lot of he's a venture capitalist, and at some point he realized that his health is deteriorating. He's not able to spend as much quality time with his family as he's wanted to. So all these material needs, material necessities, led him to look for answers. And his question is very close to Krishna, if you think about it, how to battle death, defeat death. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, I am death. I am that devouring snake of time, or something like that, that comes and takes everything from us at the end. So in his search, battling that, he came to an interesting conclusion that we cannot simply, even if we try keep our health, let's say, by buying everything organic and eating as organic as we can, and because he thought, okay, this is what I'm going to do to preserve my health, right? So in investigating, and he created actually labs and a whole company just to track his health improvement and the food that he consumes. So he actually realized that the organic food is actually also not that free of toxins, and it's not that not as healthy as he thought it is. And his conclusion was that the only way how to actually eat the healthiest food is to grow it ourselves, not to wait for someone else to pack it for us and label it as healthy. And that's actually what Prabhupada says, repeating it from Krishna, that all living entities, they subsist from food grains. Krishna developed this world in such a sophisticated way. I sometimes, when I was in Austin, I would meet the there's a big hub of Tesla there, and some are theistic, some are atheistic, some are agnostic, and I would meet them occasionally either on kirtan or friends of my friends like that. And the last time I spoke with someone about God there, I would challenge them actually how the cars, like the autonomous cars that Tesla is making, they're so sophisticated, but then they require so many constant updates, right? Every day there's an update. Yet God, or if they don't believe in God, He left this world for us without any updates whatsoever. Not a single update was made since the time of creation. If we think about it, it's miraculous. It's a miracle, right? But yet atheists say there's no God, there's no need for God. But they take that one miracle as a fact and base everything on that miracle. So Krishna, he created this world, and he gave a very good manual, a very good teacher, so many spiritual masters, and in particular in our parampara, Srila Prabhupada, who is taking us really, if we go through the books, there's a complete theoretical and practical knowledge how to make the best, both materially out of this world and spiritually. And in his Leela, in his pastimes, he also exemplified how to deal with that. And yeah, I think this is really the missing part. Seeing so many different communities, and either that's in North America or the Middle East. I have been in Europe in quite some time, but the necessity for creating these, either that's a farm community to some degree in your backyard, or a farm community on a larger scale, it's really something that is missing. And to create that, if we take that a step further, we're not gonna create that individually. I mean, some people can, right? You can acquire enough wealth to go and buy a farm and buy so many cows and distribute milk, but we are so limited by resources at the end, especially now as Kali Yuga progresses, our resources become more and more scarce. We can see how turbulent is the financial structure in the world. So, and in the past, right, all these farm communities, families will have 10 children, right, at least 5 or 6. That the average of families of a household family was, I think, like 5 or 6 children up to 50 or 60 years ago. Even here in the United States, now it's what, 1.7, something like that. So in a realistic sense, and also in Prabhupada's example, the only way to achieve that is to find a way to work together. And there's no really working in Krishna consciousness, right? We don't work here. We don't get paid to serve Krishna and love him. And it's not gonna be service in love and devotion if we do that. So the same thing goes about our relationships. It's not an artificial imposition to come together and come for kirtan and associate and schmooze and whatnot. It has to really come from the heart. And the Western civilization is there's a big hole in that. I think there's a big hole in our heart and in our capacity to really connect with just random people, and I think it's also something that our Krishna consciousness as a community is affected by that. That it's challenging. It's challenging to decide now that as householders, as or devotees from different varieties of social in our social circumstances, will just come together and enjoy each other's association. It requires like a stretch. So, but Prabhupada wanted that. I think there's even this one famous letter that your love will be shown. Prabhupada says that your love to me will be shown by your capacity to work together, to serve together, right? So I think like the highest grade of that love, the highest level of that love would be when we would come and do that purely because we want to associate with each other with Prabhupada in the center and take care of each other, both materially and spiritually. That's why I think Prabhupada would also, a lot of times he would ask devotees all the time, like not just about their spiritual life, but also about their material situation, starting from their health to how their children are doing, like that. So he has a big place in his heart for all of that, and it's something that I think the world in general will benefit from our propensity to facilitate something like that for humanity as well. We visited this place just outside of Austin, and it's a Christian community, and they were very closed up to like, I don't know, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, and then something clicked for them and they realized they should open up and have something like a farmer's market and invite people like the outsiders. So I went there because I heard that they do like really good cheeses. They're like the best ranking cheeses in the US, raw cheese, rennet free, purely vegetarian. And it happened that the one of the main directors of the community, he was an Israeli guy from a kibbutz, and during his travel in the States, he got attracted to this community, and consequently, he just moved with his whole family in the 70s there. And their prime way how they connect to God is through land, and they don't just do that, but they try to really help through their produce, through their everything that they label as healthy, and to really help the people of, it's around Waco in Texas. And I thought, wow, that would be so beautiful if devotees also they open up, and they open the farm communities to the degree that every Sunday hundreds of families, they would come and like take the cheeses and buy like those like a cute coffee shop there, and they understand, like you can see that they put so much thought and effort how to connect to the local people where they're at, to the couple that just moved from the city to escape their busy life and find some, not just peace, but also some social life that they need from the cities. And I think we as a Krishna conscious society have so much also to give in the Krishna conscious way. And I met also devotees that actually they've been curious about other spiritual organizations, spiritual groups, and they travel. There's this one devotee in Brazil that I met that they invited me. It was 2022. no, 2023, they invited me. I went to Mayapur to film something about their cow protection project. They wanted to facilitate an online workshop for people that want to start, for example, cow protection. And we recorded videos, and then I think they later uploaded it on their something like a streaming services or whatever. So the devotees, the specific devotee that organizes that, his idea behind that is to also travel and see how different other spiritual organizations, how they implement their teachings in a practical way, because there's so many things we have to take into consideration, right? We have to understand how the government will see us, how the local people will see us, how to make ourselves more approachable. It's not just diving into the teachings theoretically, but it also understanding how to implement them in a way that anyone from any point, any place in his life can benefit from them. So yeah, the devotee even traveled to like some remote tribe, like in the Amazon forest. That I don't exactly remember what was the specific like service in that community that was exactly relatable, but I just thought that was interesting. But he went to a kibbutz in Israel and different Amish communities. Actually, one of the Hare Krishna, I think they're one of the most successful farm communities, at least here in the States. Gita Nagari was established on Amish community, and they maintain the structure of the farm that the Amish people set for them. And I think they're one of the only farms that actually profusely they distribute milk, raw milk, and ghee. And Prabhupada wanted that. Prabhupada wants that.
Prabhupada visited there.
Right.
Yeah.
So we can, dive into the scriptures and we can see how people that even seemingly haven't associated with Prabhupada or read his books, or maybe read his books and they don't openly, they don't need to say that, but we can see how these concepts, these Vedic concepts, they're practically already implemented in so many places in our society, and really take the best and see how we can, as grihastas, as followers of Srila Prabhupada, we can make an imprint in this world, especially in this time that people, I think they're searching way more now. Like I said before, after what everyone went through collectively during the pandemic, evidently there's way more necessity and need for conscious, sober, sattvic living, close to nature, close to God, and benefit ourselves, our families, our communities, everyone who get in touch with us, and it's I think it can be a beautiful next step in the Krishna conscious association. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Ramachandra Prabhu.
If anyone has any comments or questions, I'd be glad to hear from you.
Can you read the verse again?
Yeah. Oh my Lord, the people of the world are embarrassed by all material anxieties. They're always afraid. They always try to protect wealth, body, and friends. They're filled with lamentation and unlawful desires and paraphernalia, and they avariciously base their undertaking on the perishable concept of my and mine. As long as they do not take shelter of your safe lotus feet, they are full of such anxieties.
Hare Krishna. Any questions or comments or realizations or thoughts?
Thank you for your class, Ramachandra. I have been very motivated by the concept of agrihoods since I was a child.
Mm-hmm.
Communities based around agriculture, and it's not what drew me to Bhakti, but I am very excited that it's something that was important to Prabhupada, and I endeavor to learn more about this. So it being such a main point of your class today is exciting for me. I appreciate you sharing what you've seen of other places and your encounters with other devotees and how they're endeavoring and what that looks like. I'm very moved by the verse, how we can get attached, I mean mine, I mean mine, I mean mine, my family, my this, my that. And to the extent that we are we are just in service, that nothing belongs to me, it's all in service to Krishna. We find such abundance, right? That Krishna knows the desires of our heart and helps us in our service as we move forward. So yes, I'm just very encouraged, I'm very excited to learn more, and I wanted to thank you. Beautiful class. Very good verse too.
Thank you, Arsen. Yeah, it's a journey. Krishna consciousness is not how do we say, it's not a sprint towards the end. It's not a 100-foot sprint. It's a marathon.
Yeah.
Marathon of lives. It took us lives, right? I think Yogeshwara in his talk yesterday's class, you mentioned how we went through all the species of life to acquire the human form. So I just, when we put that into perspective, right, they're the only human forms, what is it, like 50,000 of them? Or out of
100,000, yeah.
Or 100,000? And out of these, only a certain percent is what in Sanskrit they call Arya, which is a form that facilitates some sort of God consciousness, spiritual understanding. So, what, it's like 8,400,000 species, so at least 8,300,000 something times, I don't know, 20 years maybe on average, like a mammal lives. So millions, hundreds of millions of years we spent getting here. So making the best of this journey, of this marathon, I think it also requires to understand that Krishna, he wants us to meet him in all the stages, or all the capacities of our life in practice of Krishna consciousness, and he wants us to make sure that we'll be able to practice and serve him to the best of our abilities in any stage of our material life too. And Prabhupada, he describes so many ways how to do that, like in this concept of varnashram dharma, in the different stages of life. And it's just meeting devotees. I met there are quite a few like young devotees that just came to Krishna consciousness a few years ago, or were fortunate to take birth in a Krishna conscious family. And I noticed that we all very much struggle in finding ourselves, how to adjust our material situation and be inspired in continued service to Srila Prabhupada. We all want that. We tasted the bliss, we tasted the nectar, but the material circumstances it's inevitable. Material life, it always changes. Like it's birth, death, all the other stages in between, and it requires intelligence to making sure that we can keep it up. We can keep up the long walk. I'm not into running. I know Yogeshwara, he likes running, but I like the walking.
It was steady. Prabhupada would emphasize he's a lot more interested in a steady moon than a shooting star.
Right.
A steady moon. Yeah.
So that requires using our intelligence. Valerie was yesterday asking how to develop our intelligence, how to work on our intelligence. Bhakti yoga, sometimes called buddhi yoga, yoga of intelligence. And I really like that question because it's really, I think, our ability to strengthen our intelligence will project in how well we're able to adjust our material life to make sure that we practicing to the best of our abilities and continuously getting that bliss, continuously enjoying kirtan, enjoying association. Otherwise we would look for enjoyment. Naturally, we're Satchit Ananda, we're full of pleasure, so if we don't find the pleasure spiritually, we'll look for the pleasure in the material sense, and that will bring us back to the cycle of the 8 million something forms of life, and never ending journey of misery.
I appreciated that question from Valerie yesterday too, and we discussed it then. It was part of the verse, and also I've heard it in another class Gary Linda gave. Knowledge, some people can use like money. They try to accumulate it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let me gather all the books. Let me gather all the resources.
Mm-hmm.
Let me gather, and then to what end? If we're not discerning, the point of knowledge is for discernment, not for accumulation.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah, thanks for your class and the discussion with Rasamrita. Yeah, you mentioned at one point about you don't know if these places read Prabhupada's books, and I'm reminding just from the verse itself how influential Srila Prabhupada has been. Okay, so there was a famous song from George Harrison called "I Me Mine,"
Mm-hmm.
and so I feel 99% certain he has a whole album called "Living in the Material World" with Krishna on the cover. So he was very influenced by Srila Prabhupada, and so just that whole language in society, even something around the vegetarian movement since the 1960s. That's so much catalyzed, sparked by Srila Prabhupada, his teachings, his emphasis on prasad distribution. Not that the credit would go there in most places, but it's Prabhupada.
Yeah.
As a main driving force. The whole idea of openness in the Western world to transmigration of the soul. That's Prabhupada's teachings. Again, not that if you looked in Wikipedia or something, you'd see Prabhupada, as a main reference or a reference at all. And so I am this body, basic misconception. This is mine, I'm the controller, I'm the enjoyer. It's the core of material life. In your class, in the verse and purport, there's a purport in the Bhagavad Gita. The Prabhupada says, family, spouse, children, these are natural objects of affection, as you emphasize, not to reject, and to put Krishna in the center, and otherwise it becomes empty. I was pretty recently, I was speaking with someone, because you referenced the beginning of this decade and the pandemic, and I'm remembering actually, right there, before there was any restrictions, at least in Florida or this country, we went into the advanced course there in March 7th, 2020, and when we came out, like everything was like a ghost town.
Yeah, well, right in the middle during
Right in the middle of it. I wasn't aware of it because
Yeah.
we were all on this no
It
media.
was complete insanity.
Yes, we came. What happened to the world?
Downtown Gainesville was.
Yeah.
We thought something happened.
I guess was there a nuclear bomb or what happened?
Zombie apocalypse.
Yeah, we were in the. So you referenced that here, and as you mentioned, yeah, there are devotee agricultural communities, in the line of Prabhupada with cow protection, how to make cow protection and bull protection economically viable. There we have all the Vedic principles, but it's a challenge in the modern age, because it's one thing. Oh, cows can graze, and then and someone can use their wealth to support that. And then at the same time, there's like how to actually make it economically viable. I was speaking with someone who as in the pandemic 2020, 2021, so it was in a different continent, but they got with some other devotees, and they were all convinced that the whole societal economic structure is going to collapse.
Mm-hmm.
And so they actually purchased land.
Mm-hmm.
They actually purchased land because it's all going to collapse. And the pandemic and the oppressive government and the corruption. And, and then so like a group of maybe 4 families, 4 to 6. Mm-hmm. And then as years went on, 2023, let's say, 2024, it turns out the whole economic structure did not collapse. Like, people are still basically doing what they're doing. And then for most of those who were really into the project on the basis of the collapse, then it became like, oh, well, no, like they're not ready to give up their source of income, the business, the job, or well, there's no school there right now. So it's for me, it just brought home like it really requires a sacrifice to actually, or individually, and to cooperate as a group to form such a sustainability, agricultural community, self-sufficiency, sustainability, like who's ready to actually sacrifice to make it happen, and like if it was like on the desperation of the whole world's going to collapse, then there were some willing in this particular area, but then after it's just like, oh no,
it cannot be the man. It cannot replace Krishna, like
right?
The doomsday scenario, definitely.
Yeah. That's what there was a dependency on the doomsday scenario, and thanks for that, and yes, and okay, I'm complete.
Okay. Yeah, it's. I don't see the collapse in like a dramatic way.
Right.
Something gonna fall around head, but it's
things are definitely deteriorating.
It's hard. It's harder to acquire a home. It's harder to.
Yeah.
We are the first generation after. We're the first generation, basically, the millennials. Like I'm speaking of my generation, who are less well-to-do than their parents.
Right.
Becoming more and more difficult to acquire that wealth that Prabhupada is speaking, and that's a prediction Kali Yuga to know that at a certain point bread going to be so expensive that like a whole day of work not going to be sufficient.
It's going in that direction,
right.
even with 3 jobs.
Yeah, but that's definitely like it's a good point that like replacing that with Krishna, that also it's not what gonna save us, quote unquote, materially. I think what really gonna save us is our having Krishna as a center, Prabhupada individually, and collectively figuring out how to come together, not by force, not even by Krishna's force or Doomsday's force, or actually, it's like hard to explain because in North America and like the sort of like the how do you call it, the social like customs or it's not exactly tradition. It's like the way how people would associate, or the type of warmth is very different from, like, I grew up, half of my life was in the Middle East, half was in Canada, and now I'm here. So it's people are more reserved, right, in North America.
Yeah.
People are more into their nuclear family, into their
Individualism.
yeah.
Yeah.
And individually, we're very well to do. The structure that now, right, this year we're going to celebrate 250 years for the United States.
Right.
So something worked here.
Something's working. Yeah.
Right. The founding fathers put enough thought to arrange
in the structure. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's been working, and individually very well. But now I think the challenge is really how we're gonna manage, like, the gaps we have, even spiritually. There's so many within the Krishna conscious circles. There's so many, like, we have so actually little to connect on, right? Like Krishna, Prabhupada, some are like in ISKCON or whatever. Like, just like you can count on one hand, like, in a sense. But quite often we find separation on so many other things, and bridging that. I think it requires some like a real change of heart, that in a way that the push of the Western culture, or like the North American culture, really stands a bit as an obstacle in terms of our, like, customs as individuals, our desire to be a bit more reserved, to make sure that I don't know. There's so many things, but yeah, Prabhupada. I think Prabhupada really wants us to come together out of our actual our desire to serve him, and not make these other reasons for us to find differences to distract us. Because again, there are just a few things that very few things that we can actually connect on. We're all coming from so many different backgrounds. I remember I took a friend once to a Krishna conscious gathering in the Middle East, in Israel, and even though Israel is the Krishna conscious community is pretty how do you call it, like the ethnical background is not very wide as it would be like here or other places in the world. Still, I remember that person. He said that he never been to a religious or a spiritual gathering, that there were so many nationalities, so many people from other ethnicities or approaches to life, and it was very fascinating for him to see how they take that one common thing, Krishna, God, and they're able to connect on that, that's the purpose, right? That God is the complete whole. In theory, it should be the easiest thing to do, but our material differences, the mind and the mind, like Prabhupada says, my and mine, they stand in the way, and I think Prabhupada also gives the way how to utilize this my and mine to come closer, to ultimately serve, to find Krishna as that common denominator.
One of the quotes that I'm thinking of, I'm not remembering who says it there, and it's if we do what's easy, life will be hard, and if we do what's hard, life will be easy. And so I get in this thread of like agricultural community to really lift up our quality quality of life, especially as we face harder times, is finding we all have this common thread with Krishna consciousness, like we share Krishna, and then yet we as individuals have our temperament and tendency, and so to really motivate to push forward those whose Krishna in the heart is telling them, this is your work, this is your service, rather than those who are like, world's ending, let's do it now. Right? So why? Because those who can really understand Krishna in the heart and moving them for this, it will not be disturbed by circumstance. It will continue with enthusiasm.
Yeah, it's important, definitely. Yeah. Thank you, Asa.
Hare Krishna.
Rukmini wrote, your authentic, caring community. Okay, wait. Rukmini wrote, so appreciative of your refreshing presentation of today's perfect verse in your wide perspective. Close to my heart, however utopic. Thank you, Ramachandra Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Your authentic, caring community vision touches me deeply in the context of ISKCON Israel and USA. It's inspiring. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, thank you, Rukmini. Hare Krishna. Here, it's you. Haribol. Jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki
Jai.
Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.
Jai. Hare Krishna. Hare